Hello and a warm welcome to the CNBC Africa special broadcast. I'm Gugulethu Cele. Now today I have the opportunity to sit down with an incredible leader within the provincial government of Gauteng, the MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Affairs. That's MEC Lebogang Maile. To understand a little bit more about the portfolio, how it impacts on the TMR strategy, which has been prioritized by the Premier of Gauteng, and overall the ongoing engagements with stakeholders that will be taking place in the upcoming days. MEC Maile, thank you so much for your time today, sir.
Thank you.
Let's perhaps get into understanding a little bit more about your department. It is interlinked given the economic development element, agriculture as well as environmental affairs and rural development, but the main mandate and how it ties in with the transformation, modernization and reconfiguration strategy that the government has set in place.
Well, firstly, the portfolio I have, as you say, it includes a whole range of things. But there's about two departments, separate departments administratively, which is a department responsible for economic development, and they do a whole range of things including tourism, trade and investment, funding of SMMEs and everything else related to economic development. Then there's another department which is responsible for agriculture, environment and rural development. So administratively you've got two accounting officers. So but in my portfolio I'm responsible for both mandates. In terms of the TMR, we talk about radical economic transformation, and my portfolio is key in ensuring that we advance that agenda and we pursue it with vigor and ensure that it happens. We talk about modernization, and we need to modernize the economy. We need to look at new economies. We need to look at knowledge-based economy and innovation. And it's one of the things that we are responsible for. We've got an agency responsible for innovation called the Innovation Hub. And in the TMR, there's an R, which is for re-industrialisation. And we're saying that we need to re-industrialise Gauteng because the South Africa's economy has de-industrialised over a period of time. And we have seen the manufacturing capacity dwindling and being reduced over a period of time. And therefore, we need to focus all our energies in making sure that we reindustrialize our economy. But it shouldn't be just for the sake of it. It should be to take a lead in the Africa's industrial revolution, because Africa has got a huge potential. But if you look at the intra-Africa trade, it's still sitting at around 11%. And one of the reasons why it's that low, it's because of infrastructure. There's a huge infrastructure backlog which is estimated to be worth about $1 trillion. So it means as African countries we need to start by building internal capacity. We need to complement each other. We need to cooperate with each other. We need to raise resources so that we are able to utilize them towards the development of our continent. And if we can increase the intra-Africa trade, I think we should be able to see the development of Africa moving at a faster pace. We should be able to make a mark in defeating the scourge of poverty, of unemployment and of inequality.
I do understand that you can't do this alone as a government department, and hence there's a lot of ongoing engagement with several stakeholders from various sectors of society. Give us an idea as well as an understanding of the environmental impact assessment open day that will be taking place in the upcoming days, and the discussions that you're hoping to facilitate with regard to making Gauteng a prominent player in the African economic landscape.
The Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, including Environment, has over the years been hosting the environmental impact assessment because they are responsible for issuing these environmental impact assessment authorizations. And you will know that for any development, big development or small development, to take place, amongst other things, is the environmental impact assessment. So it is at the center of development, amongst other things. But we have decided that because our portfolio, it's now an economic portfolio, we must not just limit it to EIAs. We must just look at the cost and the ease of doing business in Gauteng. There are a lot of things that impact on the cost and the ease of doing business in Gauteng. And if we're serious about the things I was talking about, radical economic transformation, modernization, re-industrialisation, facilitating the integration of the overwhelming majority into the economic mainstream, we need to worry about the cost and the ease of doing business in Gauteng. Because people who have money to invest, who are successful entrepreneurs and business men and women, they don't have time to waste. They are in business to make money. And if they come to your province or your country, they don't want to be told about long processes, and they don't want to get frustrated because of government inefficiencies. And that is why we're saying we must look at, for instance, how long does it take to get permits? How long does it take to register a company? How long does it take to move goods from one point to the next in the province? And how efficient are our roads, our rail infrastructure, telecommunication, and a whole range of things. So previously it used to take about 18 months just to get an EIA authorization in Gauteng. We have reduced that to 3 months, and we are working towards reducing it to a month. We used to have a big problem with payment of service providers who are doing business with government within 30 days. We have made huge strides. And the two departments that I lead are already paying people within 14 days. 14 days, which is a target that the Premier has now put for all departments in Gauteng. And we are saying once other departments are starting to pay in 14 days, we want to move and pay in 10 days. Because we are the Department of Economic Development. We are the custodians of economic activities in the province, and we should champion the interests of big and small business.
If we can follow on that theme, though, have you heard of this having a positive impact on the SMMEs that you liaise with? Because I also understand from a GPG perspective, there's an expectation that you must procure at least 30% from small enterprises as well as members of the township economy.
Yes. So we will be by 2019, because we are phasing it gradually.
Yes.
In the financial year that ended 31st March, we had set a 12% target. The financial year that started 1st April, we are targeting 18%. And next year, we will then be increasing to about 30% of our procurement spend, which must be utilized amongst township-based enterprises. So we have to do these things simultaneously. You can't spend more or commit to spend more, and yet at the same time you don't pay these suppliers on time. Because if you don't pay them on time, they are not able to pay their own suppliers and the people that they do business with, and it has a ripple effect. It affects them. So for us, it's a very important task to ensure that without any fail, we pay our suppliers on time, and that is why with our agencies, they pay in 5 days. And we have said to them, because they are lean and mean, and they don't have huge bureaucratic processes. Our vision is to get them to pay at least within 48 hours, so that people who do business with our agencies must do so with pride, with enthusiasm, and energy, knowing very well that whatever activities they engage with through our agencies is bolstering their businesses.
MEC, perhaps if we can engage on these agencies, I understand it's the likes of the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, which recently brought through a delegation from Atlanta, from the United States, to foster partnerships there again. You also have the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, as well as the Innovation Hub, just to name a few that you highlighted. Talk to us about the role, the function, as well as the success stories that these agencies have managed to develop within the context of economic growth in Gauteng.
Well, as a Department of Economic Development, we've got a responsibility to create a conducive environment, to facilitate and to also coordinate economic activities in the province. And we then decided that we need to organize ourselves in a manner that will help us to efficiently execute our responsibilities. And we looked at what are the key responsibilities in bolstering the provincial economy. Trade and investment, economic infrastructure, amongst other things. And hence we decided that we need to have what we call now the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, which will focus primarily on trade and investment, on re-industrialisation, on economic infrastructure develop. Because if you want to have an economy that is thriving, you need to have the relevant infrastructure, and that infrastructure can't happen by chance. You need to plan for it, you need to mobilize resources for it, and therefore there must be someone dedicated for it, and that is why we've got the GGDA, Gauteng Growth and Development Agency. We also looked at tourism. It's a very important economic activity. It has got a huge impact on economies globally. And Gauteng receives a huge numbers of people for different reasons. Some of the people are en route to other parts of the country, en route to other parts of the continent. But most importantly, many people who come to Gauteng, they come here because this is an economic hub, it's a business hub. They've got business to conduct, business to do. And they come here, and when they get here, after doing business, some of them decide to engage in other activities, leisure and all that. So they may decide to go to other parts of the country or remain in the province. And if they remain in the province, what is it that they can do? And that is why we looked at putting together a package. We've got the Cradle of Humankind, for instance. You've got the Gauteng Game Reserve, you've got the township experience, and others come for shopping and all that. So we thought that no, tourism is a very important economic activity, and that is why you must also have someone dealing with that on a full-time basis, and which is the Gauteng Tourism Authority. Then we've got the important stakeholders in the economy, which is small business, who have a who have an important role to play in creating jobs, in helping us to grow the economy. So you need to give them special attention. You need to give them support. You need to mentor, incubate. You need to guide them. You need to mobilize them on a daily basis, on a regular basis.
How successful have they been, though?
And then we decided that we must have the Gauteng Enterprise Propel. You know, when we talk about success, it depends, because these small, medium enterprises, others succeed in terms, so there are different ways to measure success. Others might be their staying power. They've stayed in business for long, they've been able to sustain their businesses. Others might be instant success and making more money over time. It will depend whether they are able to invest it wisely or not. Others might be about establishing themselves in the market, getting to understand how business works and all that. But there have been varying degrees of success. But at the same time, there's still a lot of work to be done, because the culture of entrepreneurship, I think it's not entrenched amongst our people. We need to work very hard to make entrepreneurship fashionable, especially amongst young people, so that it becomes a way of life. It must not be something that happens by sheer luck or just to the selected few who are privileged, or because they grow in an environment that is entrepreneurial and that is that helps them to think in that way. So even people who come from poor families, they must know that one of the ways of getting out of poverty is, of course, through education and entrepreneurship, amongst other things.
I'm glad you mentioned that, MEC, because we know from a provincial point of view as well, you do have the TEPO 500,000 project and a strong focus again on the township economy. What have your efforts been in trying to diversify the streams of entrepreneurship that we often see in township economies, other than a car wash, a butcher, a chisanyama, as well as a hair salon? Are there plans as well to incorporate the youth as well as women who are often marginalized in this regard?
You know, when we introduce the concept of the township economy, firstly, it's not because there has not been economic activities in the townships. There's always been. Car wash, chisanyama, taxi, spaza shop, this and that and all that. But we wanted an entrepreneur in Alexandra, in Diepsloot, in Soweto, Orange Farm, Sebokeng, Guatema, Tembisa, Vosloorus, Katlehong, etc., etc., to reimagine how they want to participate in the economy of their areas. So they must pause and think, those who are entrepreneurs, to say, if I've got a car wash, is it enough? Is this gonna change my life? Is this gonna change the economic situation in the area? And if they come to an answer that says no, they must then say, what else can I do? I love washing cars, but you've got, for instance, the equipment for washing cars. So who manufactures it? Why shouldn't I manufacture this equipment? So that the township entrepreneurs must not perpetuate the culture of consuming, but they must create a new culture of manufacturing and consuming, because one of the weaknesses with township economies has been that people have been consuming. So there's nothing wrong with having a chisanyama, but as an entrepreneur, you must say, we've got so much chisanyamas in the townships and these businesses are thriving, but who is processing the meat? Who's a livestock farmer? So they must think about how they participate in the whole value chain. And that's what we want to inculcate amongst the township entrepreneurs. And not the culture of dependency and entitlement and expecting that every tender must come to me because I'm in the township. Because I even say to them when I speak to them that we can give you a tender, for instance, 10 million to build whatever. But don't think about that tender. Think about the material that is used to build, whether a house or whatever. Who manufactures bricks? Who manufactures window frames? Who manufactures doors? Who manufactures tiles? If we can get our people to think along those lines, there won't be a need to emphasize township economy. Because with township economy as well, we're not talking about building a parallel economy. There's one economy, but that's why I want to facilitate the integration into the mainstream. There are big economic activities taking place in the townships. The big business is selling its product in the townships, but they are not producing these products in the townships. So we want big business, because when we talk about township economy as well, we're not saying big business can't be in the townships, but we want big business in the townships to work and benefit local entrepreneurs. Excellent. And not just make money out of the townships. So we want people to understand. It will take time for people to understand what we're trying to do, because sometimes people think that we're saying no, township people sit there in your corner, engage in whatever economic activities on your own. No one must come and encroach on your space. It can't work. You can't have an enclave and expect that it will boom and create opportunities.
If I can come in there though, MEC, having highlighted the economical challenges that we do experience in South Africa, like you mentioned, sluggish growth, rising interest rates, all of this certainly does add pressure to the objectives of your particular department. I'd like us to understand and perhaps paint a picture, given that Gauteng naturally operates across the national backdrop of South Africa, where these challenges do exist. How are you looking to overcome some of these hurdles, like perhaps limited access to financing for entrepreneurs, given rising interest rates, as well as sluggish growth and rising unemployment?
Firstly, we believe that you need to balance between theory and practice. So you must firstly theorize this, the situation we're in, understand what is the problem, and amongst other things, the problem is that the problem is global. It's not just a local problem. Sure. And then there are other historic problems, like how we've managed our economic policy. Not protecting certain sectors of our economy, for instance. The growth is sluggish, interest rates, and all the other issues that are there. And that is why we will be launching an economic plan, presenting an economic plan. Mm-hmm. And that economic plan would have looked at all these issues that are a problem for our economy. Commodity prices, that affects the weak rand and the rand, the exchange rate and all that. So in that economic plan, we will be in the main focusing on what we call like two sectors, the services sector and the manufacturing sector. And both have got subsectors. And at that time, we will unveil all the details of what does it entail and how do we want to deal with the challenges in the Gauteng economy. So we've got a plan, and we will present that plan, which is going to we're going to have economic endeavor to consult with business, labor, civil society, and everybody, and tell them that we think that this is the problem, and this is how to solve the problem. And one of the ways is to focus on these two sectors with the following subsectors. For instance, tourism is one of them. Yes. Financial services, as you know, it's big in Gauteng. It's one of the industries there. ICT, it's another. And the what we call the business processing outsourcing, it's another. So there's quite a few that we have identified, and we've gone into detail on what are the key issues here, the challenges, barriers to entry, and what needs to be done in tapping on the potential of each subsector, and what are the practical steps we need to take as government, and how do we need to engage. So it's going to be a comprehensive plan. I think it's about a 200-page plan, which is specific with time frames and concrete proposals. So we know that the situation we are in, it's not an easy one. It's a difficult solution. It does not need rhetoric and easy way out. You have to, and that's why we have sourced skills from the the knowledgeable people about the economy to help us put it together, so that it's not thumbsucked and it's not based on slogans. Yep. It's not just political rhetoric, because it's easy to say we must combat poverty, unemployment, inequality. The question is what needs to be done, and that plan answers that question.
After that, implementation is what will be key, MEC.
Certainly, and in fact, if you look at our record since we came in 2014, we're not blowing our own horn, but most of the things we said we'll do. For instance, we said we'll improve on 30-day payment. We are now paying people in 14 days. We said we were going to be transparent. We have started with an open tender process. We piloted it last year. This year, 60% of our budget will be done through an open tender. We said we want to work differently with communities. We have introduced a program called Modernisation, which is making wonders. It's helping us to turn things around. So, and I always tell people that we have committed a lot of mistakes, because when we came into power in '94, we never knew how to govern. We've learned from our mistakes. Now we know how to govern. 22 years. A 22-year-old is a grown-up. They can take decisions on their own. They can stand on their own. And that is what we are doing now.
MEC, we'll have to leave it there for today. We look forward to the implementation of this economic plan, as well as developments for the province of Gauteng overall. Well, that's how we bring our conversation to an end with the MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development within the province of Gauteng. From myself and the team, it's goodbye for now.